Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm at a place that was highly recommended to me by Jane and Alan Scorer. You might remember their incredible Winston Jungle Garden. Well, today I followed their advice and come over to Thwaite Gardens in Cottingham near Hull, just half an hour north of me. This really is an absolute treat. Whether you just enjoy beautiful gardens, exotic planting, or the rare and unusual plants that can be grown here in the UK, you're gonna love this one. We're starting off today's video tour at this front area here. The magnificent lawns with some palms and exotics dotted throughout. But then things get slightly more and more crazy as they go through. When you see the main garden as it opens up, geographically themed borders, plants from all around the world, it really is incredible. Here on the grounds of the University of Hull, this garden is entirely maintained, planted, looked after by volunteers. So keep that in mind when you're watching this. The amount of effort, dedication, plantsmanship that's gone into this garden, it really is incredible. So on the site of Old Botanic Garden, it really is great to see a new lease of life and some fantastic experimental adventurous planting that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So sit back and enjoy part one of my visit to Thwaite Gardens. Coming up next week will be part two when we look inside the glass houses and imagine a botanic greenhouse mixed with the kind of crazy propagation area you might have seen at Sunk Island, and you'll probably get a picture. You'll enjoy that one as well. So enough rambling, let's get started. So this is what you see when you enter the garden, isn't it, Steve? And
yes,
you've certainly tried to give it an exotic touch, haven't you?
We've we've got a selection of different Trachycarpus here. Some I think are going to be different from the ordinary Tuscan pines, but there's Waggy over there, Princeps just in front of you, and a couple of other. I think one's Maritinus, Maritus?
Oh, just settling in there, yes.
Yeah, well, it's just starting to go, but they need a few years to settle down, which they only went in last year at the back end. So
it's encouraging to see new planting though, isn't it? And thinking ahead. But in terms of palms that have been here a while, I think as we just head around this corner here, under this beautiful blue birch here, we've got these fantastic Fortunii here, haven't we?
Yes.
Were these an original Botanic Garden planting?
Yes, they were. I don't know when they were put in, but they were part of the original. And I think they're both male because we've never had fruit on them.
I think it shows the size of these beauties, doesn't it? When you see that leaf, and it's the petiole there by itself is best part of, well, if not over a metre long, isn't it? And huge, great big leaves, and they certainly bring an exotic touch. And I think exotic touch for me really is the phrase as we walk around here. On the face of it, it is a conventionally beautiful planted long border, essentially, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it was a traditional border. We've tried to add in a few more sort of high mountain exotics. I mean, obviously we have the blue birch, which is a local champion tree.
It would be a crime to walk past this without featuring it. It really is a stunning tree, isn't it? And to be honest, as we were sort of walking around before we started filming, it was seeing the sort of stature and form of this beast. It's so just wide-reaching, isn't it, for a birch? It really is a majestic tree. But beyond that, down here, like you said, there's touches of the exotic, and I've got the Phytolacca here with those really vivid berries there.
Courtesy of the birds.
Yes, they get spread around, don't they?
Yeah.
Daphnophyllum there, isn't there?
Yep.
Perched in the middle. Fantastic. And some interesting hydrangeas dotted around, aren't there?
There's a few different types of aspera. This border was wiped out with honey fungus, so we have replanted it. So, as I say, a lot of it's sort of young planting.
I can see from the tree there, is that the fungus?
That's that's the pride of India, the Indian rain tree.
Yeah,
interesting enough, these are the seedlings from it. So,
so there is hope for the
we
next generation.
are going to leave those to grow on and fill out, because when it does fruit, it's got like a little balloon. It's quite impressive. It's quite different.
Oh yeah, I've seen them before. They are a really splendid tree, and the reason why I wanted to start the video here, obviously it's the entrance to the garden, the first thing that people see, but it's also because for people that have got an existing border at home, I think there's some really great tips of how you can introduce some exotics into it to change the feel, if you like. So the hydrangea aspera, big leaves, it's still a hydrangea, but it really has that exotic feel, doesn't it? Those great
definitely
big leaves.
Velvety leaves, yes, yeah. And as I say, the flowers, you know, if you get them are a bonus, but I mean, it's worth growing just for the foliage.
Absolutely, and when it comes to foliage, the Daphnophyllum, Macropodium, don't get much better than that in spring, do they? And these, the black parsley, isn't it here?
Yes, it's flowered this year, so
it's
it'll be its lot.
on its way out now. And for those of you who've seen my video at Simon Maybury's garden, he has this growing as a jungle foliage plant. Here, looks perfectly at home in a longer border, doesn't it, with a bit more space around it.
It's the kind of plant that'll fit in anywhere really, whether it be exotic or in just your ordinary general borders.
Absolutely. So as we head around here,
got the pineapple guava in front of you.
Isn't that splendid? This isn't one that I grow, but I just love the colours of it, the sort of tones of the, we've got that lovely sort of cinnamon bark, haven't we? Beautiful glossy leaves, and then that real pale underside to them.
It's, I think you have to have a lot more heat for it to flower and certainly fruit, because it's never done that here.
No.
But again, it's worth growing just for its shape and form and the fact that it's hardy.
Absolutely. There's so many exciting evergreen plants that, if you go beyond what goes in your normal garden centres, there's some really cool plants available. And that magnolia, is that a grandiflora over there?
It's one of 3 I think we have on the ground.
We'll see some taller ones later on in the video. There really are some exciting areas of planting, but I wanted to start here. This is the introduction. There's really some surprises on the way. Hardy hibiscus there. Stunning flowers in that. It's a plant that doesn't get talked about enough.
No, and they're perfectly hardy, and there's quite a colour range of them now.
Yes, and here
there's the Vitex, which again is, if you get the foliage, is another hardy one.
So for people that want something like you said earlier that looks like a schefflera but also flowers, that's a fantastic choice, isn't it?
Yep.
And these over here, what's this stunning
Indigo Fera? That's on a bad winter it might get cut right back, but I mean we used to grow it in the glass houses, but it's nowadays it's hard enough to try outside.
So here we've got a chlorhodendron, haven't we? And what's this beautiful plant over here?
This is the Edgeworthia, which is the one that flowers. It's naked when it flowers, and it's one of those that they say you can actually tie the branches into knots, but I don't think I'd recommend it.
No.
But the flowers are just starting to form now, and they form a little dangling group. They're quite perfumed and yellow. And all you get is these dangling bunches of flowers on it in springtime.
It does have a kind of tropical look to it, but maybe at the wrong time of year for a smaller garden, isn't it? But certainly not one you see every day, which is a shame. But let's head round and see, I guess really what I would describe as the main garden here. When you see it, it really hits you in the face and you see what a range of planting that you can grow here. So here in Cottingham near Hull, you can find sheltered microclimates like this, and look at the range of plants that you can explore here. So what's your choice plant in this area? Obviously there's one which we have to feature. Well,
the Tetrapanax, although we don't do well with Tetrapanax here, that's our best specimen, but we've tried them elsewhere and they seem to get frosted off. I mean, it is starting to grow from the roots again, so we've plenty of propagation material, but we've yet to achieve the big plants. We've done some new plantings at the other part of the garden and hope to get those to be tree size.
You say that, but if you just go stand next to that, just for perspective, just so we can really see the wingspan. Yeah, it might not be a tall plant, but that really is some size, that, isn't it? Huge wingspan. So for all those people that position it in borders 30 centimetres away from Musa banana, they get big, don't they? They get big.
I mean, and I think in the right growing conditions, I mean, you can see how much it's grown this year because obviously it dies back each year, but I mean, they can get several feet in a year.
Absolutely.
Somewhere like Jenny and Rogers, where they feed them and look after them, then on they go.
Yeah, they've got round-the-clock care there, haven't they? Fed and watered 3 times a day.
So then we've got the Butia.
Butia odorata,
got its feet down now. That was in the lean-to, and we dug it out because it was getting too big for there, and it's now starting to put on some decent growth. Yeah,
some lovely clear new growth up there, isn't there? Beautiful green. And this is a palm that I know in America they treat it as a very hardy feather palm. Over here it seems a little bit more temperamental, so up north you can get some incredible specimens, but usually, like here, they've got a sheltered spot, a wall or a bit of a microclimate to really thrive in. And we've got some camrops or chemrops, shamrops, however you want to pronounce them.
Yeah, these survived 2010. They were lost the middle, but these are the side shoots that have grown since then.
Is this Cerifera, this one with the blue?
Yeah.
I just love the colour of it. It's such a steely blue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then the Musa banana up there, completing the picture. So this is just a taste of what's to come. I think really the big exotic surprise is as we pass these greenhouses and see further around. What's grown in this greenhouse here?
Well,
a bit of all sorts.
A bit of all sorts, yeah. We've got the Acanthus. It floods in winter, so we found out when we cleared it all out. There's about a foot of water in it, but I mean, we've got the Acanthus at the back. We've got another Indigo Fera. We've got the Agapanthus. We've got gingers at that end, the bottle brush there, and then there's Xanthodecia hercules.
I'll show people in the side so we can see through the glass a bit better. Today's one of those rare sunny days, isn't it? Where the light's actually reflecting off it. So yeah, look at this here. And you said you've had problems with this, but in the past, obviously it's a work in progress, but with it getting too wet in winter, so this really is a case of the surviving plants, what's remaining here, aren't they?
Well, we abandoned it because we were getting broken glass from the chimney, but we've repaired the glass since, so it's got to be cleaned out and we have to rethink what we're going to do in it. Yeah,
so there's projects for the years to come, and as I've already mentioned, this is a garden which is run, maintained, cared for entirely by volunteers, isn't it?
Yes.
So, you know, the amount of effort that goes into this, I mean, just sort of walking around this afternoon, everyone takes a real pride in the work, don't they? And it really is amazing to see the sort of community spirit and what it's created here.
Well, we have a great bunch of people. We're about 25 volunteers, and we garden it on a Tuesday afternoon and a Friday, and some people come for an hour, 2 hours, some of us here a lot longer, but given that it's sort of done on a part-time basis, I'm always surprised how well it looks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just passing these greenhouses for now. I will be doing a second video where we explore some of the amazing exotics in there. But for now, just look at this. It's a huge collection of exotics. And this area, this is a woodland bed, obviously, if you've seen the sign there. But it really is such an eclectic and beautiful selection of plants. What is this beauty here?
It's one of the Roscoeas, one of the ginger families. There's quite a lot of, from, I think this is Spice Island because it's got the more gingery red colour on it. Then you've got red gurkha, which is just a pure, I mean, been hammered by slugs. You've got one of the cotyleas at the back there. You can see the sort of yellow flowers on it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I know these are actually a plant which I saw or recognised the first time at Jenny and Rogers this summer, and it's a plant which deserves to be planted more. Everyone thinks ginger, they think they're Hedychiums, but there's so much variety out there, isn't there?
These are hardy as well.
It really is incredible. They look as nice as any orchid, don't they?
Well, they call them the orchid flower as well, and it's hardy and you can just leave it be.
So you don't do anything to protect these, and they just come up every year?
No, we just clear them. I mean, they've flopped over because we've had wind and all sorts this year. But
we certainly have.
You know, there's some of the earlier ones have gone over there with the seed heads, and then there's quite a lot of variations from cream through to yellow, through to the other extent of red. And again, with the foliage, some of it's much deeper purple and some of it's just quite green. But yeah, I mean, if you've got moist woodlandy soil, they're an absolute ideal plant for it.
There we go. I can see that being a great plant for a lot of you watching this. But spinning round, there's some plants which, well, we'll say some of them might be familiar to you, such as the Enseti ventricosa morellii over there. But there's some others which I think really deserve a place in more UK exotic gardens. So looking at that, that's a sugarcane, isn't it, that one?
Yes, that's the purple sugarcane.
Do you grow that as an annual every year, or does that?
No, well, we overwinter it because obviously it's not hardy, but I mean it's dead easy from side shoots.
Oh, so you just sort of propagate them in water, do you? And then
well, I put them on the misting bench because I've got the luxury of that here.
You've got all the kit here and all the kit.
It does make life easier, but generally, no, they're easy to propagate. And I mean, that was obviously wasn't anything like the size, but you'll see how thick the canes are now.
When you're trying to create this is a sort of tropical theme border, this, isn't it? You've obviously got a lot of plants that, you know, I know and grow, such as the Enseti, the Persicaria. But what are some of these more interesting big leaves in the middle?
Well, I'll have to look at my list because this is one of the solanums. It can get to be 7 metres tall.
7 metres?
Yeah.
Wow.
7 metres. And again, it's typical solanum. It's got prickles on the back of the leaves and it'll have a typical sort of tomato flower. But
wow.
That's Christoricum, I think it is.
Solanum Christoricum, and that gets to 7 metres tall.
Can do if you've got the right conditions.
Oh, yeah.
It's came from seed from Mike Clifford.
Everything comes from Mike Clifford.
Anything different.
If you're a UK exotic gardener, you will have heard of Mike.
Another easy one is the pointy finger, the
Amaranthus, one of those. Yes.
Yeah, we had dreadlocks, but that didn't seem to come. But I mean, again, you can see why it's pointy finger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just comes up from seed every year. We've got the various different Kufias.
Yeah. Cigar plants there.
Yeah.
No, they're beautiful. They're just such a reliable source of colour, aren't they, through the summer? And then obviously the Tithonias here, shining bright. And then Mark grows this in his greenhouse, but you've got it outside here. Is this presumably
only for summer? Yeah. I saw that down at Kew, and I saw it had about a sort of 6 foot, 7 foot canopy on it, and I thought, I wonder if it's the same plant. And I grew 2 of mine in much bigger pots, really fed them, and they did get that canopy on them. They did get, the leaves were about 3 foot each.
Wow.
Sold them to Jenny and Roger.
Yes.
They've never managed to do it since, but again, you know, it hasn't. You can sort of see the form it gets, but as I say, when you get a leaf that's that size, it's very impressive. I think the fruits, you can see it flowering there.
That's. I wasn't expecting to see that there.
Yeah, and the fruits will sort of dangle down. Sometimes they'll drop off. Sometimes the squirrels take them. Another Kufia here. I think that's micropetala or microphylla, but you can see the same cigar shape.
So what is it about a lot of these plants here that made you think they're going to go in this border? Was it like an overall tropical theme, or is it just a sort of weird and wonderful?
It's big leaves and something different that people aren't going to see every day. From, you know, even the giant dahlia, which is almost quite common now. I mean, by the time it flowers, it's usually the end of the season.
Yeah, sort
of. And the flowers
time.
are about that size, and they're not. It's not. You wouldn't grow it for its flower.
No.
You grow it for the foliage, the unusual sort of bracts on it,
and the overall stature of it. Yeah.
And the same with the Podecian eminens. Again, it's the tree, the mountain daisy. We have had them flower inside, but again, you can get massive leaves on it, and it'll shoot up. I mean, it's been slow this year because we've had a bad year for exotics growing fast.
We have. It's been a very mild, cool start, followed by a cool summer, hasn't it?
Yeah. Solanum atripurpureum.
Yeah, this Jenny and Roger, they grow this as well, and it's such a ferocious beast, isn't it?
It is, every bit of it's sort of spiked, and then you get the tiny little stripy fruit, and then the fruit when it's ripened.
On your open days, are there any plants in this border that get a lot of attention, a lot of people asking you questions?
Yeah, because by open day, which is always the third Sunday in May, we've just planted this out, so they've come out of the greenhouse, so they're only just starting.
Yeah.
Then, but I mean, another good solanum. This one's marginatum. I think there is fruit on it somewhere. But
aren't those leaves just fantastic?
Yeah.
So just look at the spines
there's a flower.
on those.
There's a flower. Typical tomato flower.
No, barely see it, can you? It's tiny little thing.
There's the fruit.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's just so striking, isn't it? It almost looks like that Acanthus whitewater, doesn't it? That same sort of, like, I'll say garish white on it. But those ferocious spikes really make it such a stunning sort of foliage plant. I do love the selection of plants here. You've got a small anthus at the back there, haven't you?
Small anthus maculata, we're dead easy from. I mean, people are starting to leave that one outside now. It'll drop down to a big tuber, but again, it gets quite a pathetic little yellow daisy-like flower on it, but you grow it for the coloured stems.
Absolutely, and a lot of these plants, if you watch my video at Sunk Island, you will see them there, and some of your plants come from there, and some of their plants might have come from you. So
I think a lot of the original stock came from here, and they grow it on. There's another solanum here. This is the Sticky Nightshade, which has a much bigger flower on it, and I think there should be fruit on there. Oh, there's a fruit on this one.
Oh yeah,
it's in there.
Just about to see it.
So.
Try and show people in there. So if that comes through, oh, that's interesting.
Isoplexus canariensis as well, the Canary Island foxglove.
So what's this spiky beastie here?
So it's it is a hardy acanthus. It's Acanthus eminens, which has a blue flower on it. But if you want it to flower, you probably have to take it inside. But it will have a degree of hardiness. So again, you can just grow it for the foliage. Nice to know that if you can leave it out if you can't be bothered to bring it back in. But it did flower last year when we had a better summer.
I think something a bit different really is the phrase that sums up this border. I mean, the small anthus, just look at these beautiful stems there. They've such a sort of vivid patterning to them, haven't they? Yeah,
I mean, that's the reason why you grow it. I mean,
absolutely.
It does go to like a big sort of yam type tuber, but it's dead easy to take from cuttings, and as I say, you can just chop it back, and that's this year's growth.
That's impressive. So that's definitely 8-9 foot tall, isn't it? It's an impressive plant. But as we head through, that's the sort of main hit of tropical, foliage. But beyond this point here, the garden opens up into several themed areas, doesn't it? Oh, yes, this is what we wanted to see. I'm walking straight past this. Sugarcane, look at this. It really is such a glorious display of colour, isn't it? Yeah,
and the thickness of the stems, because I say it's, we've got the ordinary pennisetum here, which is the vertigo, but very similar form. When they're younger, you can't tell them apart. But you can just see the difference between...
that one's a lot more grass-like, isn't it? Whereas the sugarcane is...
That's got thicker. But again, when I said you can take it from...
so you literally pull
off the side shoots, and then either root them in water, and they'll root in, within a week.
And do they need to be presumably kept frost-free?
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard. It's not reliably hard.
No,
so.
But at the end of the season, you take your cuttings like that, and you've got something to begin next year's display with, and you can clearly see now that this is a mountain papaya. Lots of papayas forming there. But I think this really is just such a stunning area. It's just, if people want to create their own, smaller tropical style border, just having something like sugarcane for that vertical interest. You've got the red enseti there, beautiful with the light shining through. And then we've got various sort of, Ericene, Coleus. Just it's a stunning, vibrant, colourful display, isn't it?
Pretty much of everything. I mean, we'll use the spider plants everywhere, Tradescantia, the Plectranthus, all as understory planting. There's a different Plectranthuses there. So the Kufis are on the sunnier side.
I think it's a fascinating little tropical style border.
And obviously got Cleopatra, which is a true chimera.
Yeah, oh yes. Absolutely, and presumably you change this area around every single season, do you?
Yeah, I mean it's emptied, but again, there'd be the same plants for the bedding will probably be different.
Yes.
Depending on what survived the winter inside, but considering it's been such a cool summer, I mean it's starting to grow away now, but I mean really this is musifolia. Well, I mean that should be 10 foot tall.
Oh, it should be easily double this size, shouldn't it?
And it's that was started already in growth inside, so you can tell what a sort of miserable year it has been.
No matter how much care and attention you give these plants, it's still been a very cool year, and slugs and snails have really been a problem, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean we've had just total devastation in places.
Absolutely, which is unfortunate, but some areas which I think look fantastic. I mean, this area here, the New Zealand border, I just love the overall sort of colour palette, the tones in here, and there really are some weird and wonderful plants, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean New Zealand's quite unique in the fact that most of the plants developed to be not eaten by birds because there weren't rodents running around eating everything. It's only when the Europeans introduced rabbits that carnage was caused. But
yes.
You'll see that they're rather ground hugging.
Yeah.
Don't look like the Sephora there with the wire netting, or the leaves are very sort of like the Pseudopanax, are very unedible type of things. So they're all protecting themselves from being eaten at an early stage.
And this beauty here, which...
This says Entelia arborescens, which is, again, a New Zealand tree, but it's not hardy, so...
No.
I mean, it's one to grow outside for foliage and dig it up, or take cuttings. It will grow from seed originally.
Just look at the size of that leaf. It really is a majestic sight, and they've got a real sort of glossiness to them, haven't they, as well? Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
It's probably just about to flower.
Yes.
You wouldn't leave home for the flower.
No, you certainly wouldn't, but just this sort of, I guess this is more of a sort of landscape bit, isn't it, really, with the
John's designed this to make it look scrubby and how it would be actually in New Zealand. We've got some small Acer fillers which get massive in time, but they're really thorny. But again, they're all there to protect themselves from being eaten.
To me, this border really summarises why botanic gardens and places like this are so important, because you wouldn't necessarily plant up a border like this at home, would you?
No, it's a luxury to have the space.
Exactly, and the ability to sort of display, this is a continent, this is a theme, this is a group of plants, and that's what places like this do so well. And it really does look incredible. And like you said, these New Zealand plants are a mixture of these low-growing sorts here. Very subtle. I mean, you'd almost miss that down there, wouldn't you? Yeah,
Raulia. I mean, they're all sort of hugging the alpine top, so they don't, even the Salmisias are tiny. They're almost dwarf-like, and they're designed to be that way to not get eaten and survive the winters out in New Zealand.
And then for the exotic garden fans watching this, there's obviously a Stelia down there. Yeah. Very, very handy garden plant for the UK now, becoming more and more hardy in most gardens. And then obviously the Pseudopanax there, with its really alien-like foliage, isn't it, that one?
Sephora, which again is a great, great early flowerer with the big yellow flowers on it, hardy.
Like an acacia, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's, wasn't hardy once upon a time, it is now. Then and the Butia coming as well, which with a lovely white flower on it.
Yes, and then is that the Carokia, that one there?
Yeah.
They're just such a weird-looking plants, aren't they?
You see a couple of tiny little red berries, I think, are on it now.
Oh, yeah, like a sort of Contoniesta berries, isn't it? Yeah. But then, looking across here, this to me, I mean, is this Australia, this border here?
Yes, we've been stricter now. It was a bit of a mix before, but New Zealand over to Australia. Obviously the tree ferns are Aussie, but there's a lot of mixed other ferns in there because it's a shady border, so it's a case of using the areas we've got for the best plants.
I've got to say, my friend Mark, who I'm sure people watching this will be familiar with Mark's Crazy Tiki Garden videos, originally his plan was to have very sort of strict, geographic or continent borders. And I've got to say, I was a bit sceptical, because when it's your own garden, you want to plant, so many different plants, don't you? But seeing it set up like this, if you've got the ability to literally stick to a theme and really be restrained with your planting, you can absolutely make it work.
But well, if you're as wealthy as Mark, you can afford to do it because you've got the space.
That's it.
Anybody with an average garden hasn't got the space.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Or the budget.
That's the other side of things, isn't it? I mean, here, This really does look amazing. I mean, how good does a timber-clad building look with these beautiful lush green tree ferns against it? And it's not just tree ferns, obviously we've got the osmunda here, haven't we?
Yep, and the chilensis, Blechnum chilensis, which I think they've renamed again now, but...
It's just a real sort of stunning, almost prehistoric type fern, isn't it? And that's one that Shane Bilson has in his jungle stream garden, so you can see that there. I just love the way that you've really sort of been restrained and stuck to a theme. And
yeah, different wood
how good does it look?
I mean, this is basically because Yvonne was secretary of the British Terratological Society, the Fern Society, so we have access to more ferns than the average person. You won't get all of these in your garden centre. But having said that,
you can get a good few of them, I think. Yeah, like the aspleniums, you can get the osmunda. Yeah. But to me, seeing them set out like this, when it comes to private gardens, it's so easy to just literally grow every single plant you want to, isn't it? And you have a border which is just full of all these different colours, a proper riot of different forms and shapes. But when you are restrained like this and just stick to those cool, relaxing greens and ferns...
Yeah, that's all fern.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
Polypodiums right the way for spleniums to the osmunda.
It's just so much variety, isn't there?
Well, it just goes to show the different leaf shapes, sizes, colours. I mean, it's just a phenomenal... Well, as you'll see inside it, phenomenal group of plants.
So that'll probably be my next video, looking around some of the amazing greenhouses and glass houses here. But I do love this Australian area.
This is one anomaly. This is crept over from New Zealand. It needs to be moved, but it's it's a rubus, and it's called the leafless lawyer because it's so spiky. Once it gets hold of you, it won't let go. There's various forms of one, some with slight leaves on it and some with none at all. But it's quite an unusual plant, all told. Again, typical of the New Zealand. Says it's not appealing to be eaten.
Yeah, definitely very minimalist when it comes to leaves, isn't it?
Yeah. And
there are some. I can obviously see the acacia at the back there, the purpureum, which is one of those beautiful purple foliage plants you can grow. We've obviously got various sort of eucalypts in here, Wollemi pines, settling in well, acacias, a lovely large eucalyptus there. Just having that one sort of tall plant in the middle really sort of, grounds the whole border, doesn't it?
And then we've got the Australian fuchsia down there, which is flowering. You can see it's a very delicate little... You can see why it's called the Australian fuchsia.
Lovely.
Coria.
Coria,
the corias, yeah. That's another one there. They're on the edge of hardy. I mean, we had a bigger selection, but that bad winter for the 1 week in December and January, they kind of killed a lot off, so we'll probably take cuttings as a sort of backup now.
So this is, as you described earlier, very much an experimental garden, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's not in one of those proper sheltered locations, microclimates. We are in Cottingham. We're relatively close to Hull here, but this isn't some sort of special location that doesn't see freezing temperatures.
Oh no.
There is a bit of shelter to the east with, a couple of trees, that's about it. And again, on this far side here, we've got a large, magnificent plane tree over there. But other than that, this is very much a real garden with clay soil, where you have to experiment. And to me, one of the biggest experiments and one that's really done phenomenally well is this arid border here. I mean, some of the plants in here, we'll just walk around this far side and just look back at them. This is a Gnaphofia, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's Northandiae. It's unfortunately the flowers got eaten by the slugs this year, but it's a bit of a thug once you get it in.
Oh yeah.
It's even squeezed out the Dasylirion here. Which had flowered the other year, so it squeezed that one out. But another Acanthus, Ethiopian one, that's the orange flowered, Acanthus senii, hardy, gets knocked right down. That's all this year's growth. The only problem you've got, by the time it's ready to flower, it might be forming a flower now, it's usually the back end of the year, and you're lucky if the frost don't get it. It's worth growing for, I think it's worth growing for the foliage.
Absolutely, it fits in perfectly well here. But when it comes to foliage plants, obviously we've got a proper mixture of, there's eryngiums, fascicularias,
Dasylirions, nolinas, and obviously the aeoniums are being chucked out for the summer.
So essentially this border here, it's raised up, isn't it? There's a lot of grit
It's just on a load of rubble.
Yeah, that's literally what these plants need, isn't it, to thrive?
They need to be lifted out for the roots to go down into the rubble. Yeah. The only time we lost a Dasylion, I think Serratifera, it was over there when we hadn't raised it up. So the only plant we ever lost was one not at normal ground level. Yeah. Since then we've got the stone at the outside and raised it up on rubble, and you can see what you can get with the
this is it.
Yucca Faxonia, Yucca decipiens.
Those really are incredible.
I mean, they're just phenomenal. I mean, I've grown them in pots and they're tiny by comparison, and ones are allowed to get the roots down.
So a lot of these plants here, you've donated them yourself, have you?
Yeah, I often get two, one for my own garden, one for here, and as I say, that was planted some years ago. This has just been planted this year. So
right, got you. Yeah.
Carnariosus has come from it wasn't one of mine that was potted. You can see it's got a nice cordex on it, but it's a poor plant at the top. It's going to be a year or two before it starts to do something fantastic like
these are just monumental, aren't they?
Yeah.
And doesn't it just blow your mind that something like this, you know, which is 2 meters plus across, can grow in the north of England? It really is amazing. I mean, that Faxoniana there, the size of that, the wingspan, it's probably 3 meters plus wide. It really is a vicious beast,
the actual leaves themselves are well over a metre, aren't they?
Yeah. It's hard to convey the scale sometimes. I mean, this plant here, we're talking 6 foot tall, the same width across, these vicious spines here. It's certainly a plant you want to give the space to, but wow, it really is amazing. And obviously complemented by the olive tree, which I believe you said was here to start with.
It shouldn't be in this bowl. This is South America, but as the olive tree was already here, we didn't have the heart to to cut it out.
No, we can forgive minor geographical inconsistencies, can't we?
Well, we throw these wobblies in.
Yes. So I think from these sort of arid spiky plants, we need to take a trip across to another continent or another style of planting over here. And to me, this sort of area of bananas, I love the way you've set the beds out here. So if someone's got a large area of grass and you want to move over to a tropical style garden, I just love the way you've made these sort of circles, irregular shapes, and really sort of, again, restricts yourself to a few plants, and it really lets them shine, doesn't it? So obviously these are new plantings, aren't they, these?
Yeah, they were basically the surplus we had from the exotic border, and we've put them out to sort of, we will eventually fill this space up with a mixture of hardy and, you know, we've got the polonias, we've got the Tetrapanax, and again, some of the cannas will leave out, some of the bananas will leave out and just mulch.
Yeah.
But the idea is to, you know, have a mixture and then just fill it up in the summer, and you know, the beds can be extended as and when we need to do. There's a lot of bamboo further back which we'll interplant here eventually.
Yeah. No, there's some fantastic, well, blue bamboo in particular that we'll have a look at. But I mean, so here we've got Musa sycamensis. Did you say that was a Helen's hybrid?
Helen's hybrid is in there as well. We've got the Arundodonax, Salvia amistad, some of the different sonchus which we will leave out because, as I say, they're on the edge of hardy. They'll often come back. A lot of things people say are hardy, they are root hardy. And it depends on where you are, whether you can, it's like with the Brassioopsis. I've got Brassioopsis mitis planted out at home. Frost got it, it's growing again now, but I mean, you're waiting a full season for it to look something like, so I've tended to leave ours in pots inside because you're better off just bringing them out for the summer. Yeah,
there's technically hardy, and there's a plant that you'd want to grow, you know, after a bad winter, isn't there? So just skipping through some of these summer areas here. Obviously, you've got your famous dwarf ricinus there, haven't you? They've not done as well this summer, have they?
We've specialised in that this year. Yeah. They've been rubbish.
It really has been a slow year. So if you're watching this, don't be disheartened if yours are being a bit slow. But this certainly isn't a slow plant, is it?
No, it's purple. It's the populous purple towel, which we get a pollard, so you get the massive, big purple leaves on it. It was one of the gardens and gardeners world I saw it on, and first year in, so we'll let the roots get established and then give it a chop along with the catalpa, and also the Polonia will pollard them all in this area.
So all three of those trees could potentially be monsters if you left them to it, but if you plant them anything smaller than this, you need to let them settle in, get their energy there, get the roots down, and then probably sort of year 3 or something like that, you can pollard or coppice them right back, and you get a phenomenal main shoot, huge great big leaves. And this one's got some quite interesting sort of stem form on it, hasn't it? Yeah, really angular, like a Eucalyptus neglecta, isn't it?
It is.
Interesting.
As you say, it's quite angular on it.
Yeah, that's a lovely one. But you talked about Polonia. People will see many of those dotted through this video. But this one here is clearly growing towards the light, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's ready to be cut back. But this is one similar to one in Mark's garden. Because it's been left with several buds, it doesn't quite have the leaf size as one, if you just left 1 or 2.
No, they were kind of dug up, and as I say, it was kind of a touch and go whether they actually took, and the 2 smaller ones at the back I think were seed grown by Sean the other year, so we just plonked them out, and hopefully they'll start to get going, and then we'll just cut them right back.
Absolutely. And I mean, skipping through this area here, which is almost a crime, but just look at some of these magnificent shade planting. So people who want plants for dry shade, it doesn't get much drier or shadier than this, does it? And I think this area here, once these are settled in a little bit more, it will absolutely sing, won't it? I mean, those Fatsia japonica spider's web, how good do they look in the right spot? You know, with a bit of shade, they just jump out at you, don't they? So I mean, obviously the theme for this area is sort of Fagecia bamboo, a bit of all sorts, Fatsia japonicas.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're growing all the different Fatsias. We've got Pedicarbon camouflage, or whatever it was, the Japanese name.
Yeah.
The ordinary one there.
We've got a lot of polysticum ferns,
Yeah.
and then we've got, well, just there's a bit of everything, isn't there, really? So I suppose it is pretty much a textbook list of what you can grow here in dry shade that should hopefully thrive. And
Yeah, I mean, this corner was literally full of brambles and nettles, so over the years we've cleared it and interplanted. The downside is the trees suck a lot of moisture out, so even the bamboos aren't romping away, but
no,
given time they're starting to fill out.
absolutely. And when we talk about bamboos and romping away, there's one in particular I think we need to have a look at, which is the beautiful blue Borinda. As we head past the stunning groups of cannas over there.
One that's worth mentioning on the way around is Fagecia Great Wall. It's a fantastic non-spreading bamboo.
Well, that's really interesting, that, isn't it? The
You get
colouring
the blue,
of those.
yeah. It's not as good as Papifera or Blue Dragon, but I mean, it keeps to that size and it's a real good doer. I mean, that's a chunk from one of my own at home.
I do like that. It almost looks like the Fagecia Demisogeri, the way it's got that sort of mixture of the dark colours, then with a real sort of light, you know, waxy coating. That's lovely, that. And I think with bamboo at the minute, it seems that one or two really popular ones, you know, the name gets mentioned and suddenly everyone on Facebook wants it. Whereas,
yeah, well, I've got Jerry at home and so far I've been very disappointed in it.
Oh, well, I'm quite happy with mine so far, but I guess
I think this was Red Dragon that was bought at the same time, so kind of typical Fagecia, much more controlled, slight purpling on the leaves, but again, as I say, I bought Red Dragon and Blue Dragon, and you can see what Blue Dragon turned into.
So we'll head through here, past these more typical Fagecias, and then we'll see Blue Dragon, which is believed to be a form of Papyrifera, given a commercial name. Push these out of the way. Just look at this. For those of you who've seen my video looking at Dr. Simon Olpin's Sheffield garden, this really sort of takes me right back there. Beautiful blue. Just look at the size of some of those. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of the top end of your Fagecia. So yeah, if you think Fagecias are tiny,
oh yes,
then think again.
That's, like I say, that's easily about 15, 16 foot tall. Lovely colour, and this is the Fagecia to go for if you want those decent thick culms. I'll be wary about how I handle that, but yeah, fantastic plant, and it also looks great against the dead nettles you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's an intentional colour coordination, isn't it?
Well, now you've said so, definitely.
That's the artistry that can only come from an experienced plantsman, isn't it?
In fact, it was a weed here and we leave it be, yeah.
I'm glad we came for it, because that is an absolutely stunning bamboo. For those of you then who want a Mediterranean border with an exotic twist, I think this really has some fantastic ideas. So we've obviously got the Camarops Mediterranean dwarf fan palm. We've got Yucca gloriosa over there, which, although you can get it at any garden centre, yes, it's slow growing, but it just looks beautiful, doesn't it? Very hardy, very tough. And what's this? This
is Mount Etna broom. Again, it's got infected with honey fungus, but as I say, it's probably one of the big ones you're ever going to come across, but it is the true Mount Etna broom, so again, another Mediterranean one.
It's a shame it's been hit, isn't it?
Because I mean, if you look through there with that one branch where it's flowering well on the blue and green foliage,
you can imagine what it would look like. That's a shame. So I've started planting at the far end of my garden a similar sort of mixture of plants to this. So we've got the sort of blues, we've got the browns, lots of drought resistant plants, but I just think like the steeper gigantea over there and all those sort of bluey silvery leaves, they look great with exotics, don't they?
And you've got the giant Mediterranean fennel as well, which I'll put up because it's flopped over. But this is another hardy one.
Oh yeah, this is one that I want to start growing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a brilliant plant, it's hardy, and then obviously it flowers, it's about 2 metres tall, and as I say, so next year it'll probably flower, because it flowered last year.
I do love these sort of giant fennels and plants.
I mean, just look at the foliage on that. I mean, when it's not flopped over and it's upright, it's...
I think one of the criticisms of sort of jungle style planting is that it's very water, fertiliser and time intensive. And I think as we go forward, if you've got a naturally dry garden, there's lots of oversized, interesting, cool plants that you can grow that don't have the same, high intensity resource requirements. But just look at this view. This is so impressive. I've never been here before. Today's my first visit, and I've got to say I am impressed that if this is all done by volunteers, I think...
Of a certain age?
Well, of a certain age, yeah, I won't mention that, but you are one of the spring chickens here, aren't you, Steve? It really is amazing what you've created, and there is a bit of something for everyone. So like I mentioned, we'll do another video looking inside some of the amazing glass houses there. You don't want to miss that one. But for now, I think let's push through here, past this beautiful plain, and see some of the more experimental planting you've got on the way.
Well, I suppose we've got the Agave's worth a mention, as it's americana, and it is outside there, and the fascicular.
So fasciculary bicolour, beautiful striking crimson reds.
Flowers aren't quite there yet.
No, not quite there yet.
They're turquoise colour, they almost look synthetic, don't they?
Oh, as an overall plant, it's just unreal. There's nothing like it. And here we've obviously got more Yucca gloriosas combined with the Agave americana. Is it variegata? That one, imaginata?
Yeah, variegata, but they never do. We had a massive one that we put in the middle of the American bed, but they're a lot more tender even than the plain just blue one. But this just to show what it'll grow outside because it's dry in winter.
Yes.
Because it's so shaded by the conifer.
Well, I suppose you've got the sun, which is, that way, isn't it?
Just about gets the sun.
You've got the sun coming from over there, but crucially, this massive, great big evergreen conifer here gives it that overhead cover in winter, and that is probably critical for growing a lot of these plants.
Well, a lot of the agaves are high mountain and quite hardy. They'll take a frost.
Absolutely, yeah.
But as long as it's not sat in water and as long as it warms up during the day.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the things are quite happy, but and I say Oratifolia, Montana are the classic, much hardier ones, but so that's just ordinary americana.
And it looks great, doesn't it?
Been here for a lot of years now.
Not much in the way of marking, but again, it just comes back to the basics of give them somewhere that sees plenty of sun, raise them up a bit, and overhead
plant,
cover.
right place, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly that. But as we push through here, like I said, past this huge plain, one of my favourite trees, that when you see large examples, York, London, places like that. But heading through, there's an even more unusual tree. And I'll be honest with you, Steve, when we came out here, the first plant that jumped out at me was this magnificent pine over here.
Pinus Montezuma.
Yes.
It's fantastic pine once it gets its feet down because of the needles and the form. Unfortunately, ours is tucked a bit too close to the others because we needed to do that when the groundsmen were here. They're liable to have mown it, but it's now just getting going, so it's going to hold its own at the edge of the border.
So for those of you with larger gardens that want trees that have the same impact that a lot of your exotics do, you can't get much better than that. It really is absolutely stunning. And as we head around here, we'll see lots more exotics that I've tried to grow at home, but don't always come through. For example, the Echiums. Those are a plant which you take a gamble on, don't you, every single year. They need to survive 2 winters on the trot, but you've got some flowering further around. What's this over here?
This is Marina longifolia. Again, if you want a sort of exotic thistle, it has drooping white pinkish flowers. They sort of droop down from here. It's quite an unusual and exotic plant in its own right, and hardy. So again, it's obviously not at its best at the moment but I mean you can see the rosettes and they're evergreen.
Yeah. Well, the flowers have gone down, but you've still got the rosettes there, so that's not a complete write-off the season. And what is this exquisite little rosette down here?
Well, that's one of the Eryngiums.
That really is amazing. It looks like one of the really fancy succulents. Here we go.
It's just the ordinary Erubrum from field. So the Erubrum that's flowering around by the Agave border, it's a nice form.
Oh, yeah, it really is. How amazing does that look? It almost looks like some fancy little Agave or something, doesn't it? Or a fascicularia. That is quite amazing, that. And I've got to say, you're just in this beautiful early September light. This really is a stunning setup you got here. And I know it's a mixture of some borders which are tended to perfection, other areas like the meadow which are very much long-term projects and require a lot of commitment. But I do really appreciate the style and the adventurousness to your planting. And just, I mean, some of these
redwoods.
Yeah. So here we've got the magnificent dawn redwood, Roscoea glyptostroboides, is it?
Yeah. Quite big brass plaque with
it. There we go. There we go.
But you were right.
Dawn redwood is one of my favourite trees, and filming obviously forgot to pronounce it, but it really is a fossil that dates back to prehistoric times. Absolutely stunning.
That's deciduous, and then there's the evergreen one with the red soft bark.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, just look at that. they're just such monumental trees, aren't they? And in front of them, that magnolia, that grandiflora really is some size in itself, isn't it? Wow, that really is an amazing sight. So I guess here you are in a very privileged position of having a variety of different sort of garden conditions, different areas. You've also got the established planting from when it was a full-on botanic garden. And then you've got these areas where you can experiment, do your own thing. So I know this one here is obviously, again, a bit of a work in progress, but...
Well, it was a lot better at the beginning of the year when we had the geranium palmatum, because that literally covered this with a big...
I can imagine what they would have looked like,
I mean, it's just a great froth of pink. As I say, now it's worse because even the eryngiums are sort of just about coming back.
This isn't me just choosing the bad bits to show people, but I think it's also a great example of your soil. You can see it cracking there, so you literally got everything against you here, haven't you? So you've got tricky, shady areas.
We knew these beds would be dry, but I mean, it's dry and dry. I mean, the conifers suck it out, and then the soil just goes. So I mean, you are, trying to find the right plants that will survive in this.
Yes. So, Steve, head round here. This is a plant which I hadn't heard of, and I've never seen it flowering. What's this one?
Well, the easy answer is it's Himalayan mint.
Himalayan mint.
Yeah. Coccinea coccinea.
Well, there we go. I'll take your word for it.
Well, yeah, don't quote me on that, but it's Himalayan mint. So, it's first time it's flowered.
I'll carefully step forward and show people that. So that's certainly not one that I've heard of growing before. It looks fantastic, but here I've got to say it is overshadowed by these magnificent Echiums, and I do love an Echium, and when you're down south, they're almost weeds, aren't they, growing in every garden you see, but here in the North England, this really is a display, isn't it? Just amazing.
So I mean, because obviously they started to flower for open day, and they were covered in blue then, and then the ones at the bottom. I mean, just the plants themselves, even if they don't flower,
absolutely
typical of Madeira Canary Islands. Just everything's massive, and then does its bit and then drops dead. Leaves seed everywhere. So I mean, provided we don't get a bad winter, it'd be a phenomenal display next year, because we technically should have about 20 or 30 flower spikes.
Wow, it really will look impressive, won't it? Late next spring. So I'll put details of your website in the description below, so people can head over there and obviously, head to one of your open days next year. And it really worth seeing this border, because I mean, there's a lot of Echium rosettes here, isn't there? So hopefully the winter's kind and we get to see a truly spectacular display next year. They are really amazing plants. And heading round this area here, we've got a plant down here which you warned me about, steer well clear of.
Yeah, Deadly Nightshade. Again, it's a remnant from the old botanic gardens, but so
we want to be careful around this one, don't we?
Yes, we've run out of space for the bodies. So.
Well, that soil back there is mounded up quite a bit, isn't it? Those trees are growing suspiciously well.
And if that doesn't tempt you, then obviously the pokeweed will.
The pokeweed will. So depending whether you want a short stay in hospital or a long stay in the ground, there's plenty of options here, aren't there? Yeah. No, it's a beautiful sort of collection of plants. This is an interesting coloured Echium, isn't it?
It's a pink one, I say, but I planted them all out, and by some miracle we have a pink one here, white one's there, and the blue over there. Now, I thought they were all the same. So there you go, that's just pure luck, but, I think this will be going to use white tower or pink tower or whatever else.
Over time they'll all cross around, won't they? Yeah. Right, so, and this here, I've got to say, exotic planting aside, this is just a fantastic.
This is our
prairie style. Would you say?
But basically it's our grass bed that's gone prairie style. So it's anything that can hold its own.
Through your wet winters and dry summers. Yeah. Or wet summers, as they prove to be.
With minimal maintenance, because we haven't got the time or the staff or anything else. But so I mean, it shows you can get a very nice effect for minimal input.
I do like this sort of look, and increasingly, obviously we're entering a period of dry summers, in theory. I think that a lot of these grasses, plants that can survive well, they're such a great foil to a lot of other plants. So if you have a lot of these sort of steeper tenuissimas, pampas grass even, at the back there we've got the Lutar reariparius, haven't we?
Acanthus as well.
Miscanthus giganteus. Yeah. I think if you've got a big garden and you've got a border you want to fill, the grasses are a great low maintenance filler plant, and from there you can do what you want. So if you want lots of sort of flowers, you can go for the flowers. If you want a real exotic look, a few yuccas and cordlines in there, straight away it's a really bizarre alien landscape. I just love them. I think they're such a universal, adaptable plant. Here with Verbena bonariensis, they're a very sort of soft and flowing late summer treat, aren't they? Or early autumn, depending on
I mean we're getting the autumnal colours now, but Brisa media, which is evergreen, and then we have Brisa maxima, which is a much I think there's Maxima with a longer self-seeds itself around. So as I say, the media stays evergreen, whereas Maxima is an annual.
No, it really is amazing, and again, this is something where it's only coming to bigger gardens for most of us, where you can see a grass border, can't you?
Yeah.
We're not all lucky enough to have a 5-acre wall garden where you can have a grass border of things, but here it just looks splendid. And for tree fans,
Acer griseum.
yeah, that is one of my favourite trees. And I mean, to me, when it comes to sort of late autumn, you got the low golden sun just filtering through that bark, some of those sort of vivid crimson and orange colours, really is a spectacle. Beautiful magnolia there. That one is, you were saying about the flowers in this one.
It's a species one that has bluey green flowers on it. John will know the name. As I say, it's a phenomenal tree, but it's a bit of it's not typical magnolia where you get a great big display all at once. It's, you've got to hunt for the flowers.
A bit underwhelming.
John loves it, but you know.
Yeah, there's something here for everyone, isn't there? That's the spin we're going to put on it, yeah. No, there really is. And I mean, just spinning around, there's obviously areas which we were out of time to go into today, but there really is such a collection of all sorts. Obviously, we've got large lawns. Over there, we've got a border which at the minute is a combination of dwarf conifers and bog garden plants, isn't it?
Yes, it's our winter border, but there's a sort of section in the middle which came from my own garden, which is a bog garden, because we haven't got one set up here yet. So you'll see the persicaria, willows, and the typical bog garden. But either side is actually now the winter garden for they're flowering in winter, hips in winter, or colour. So it's a combination of everything else. Bit of a throwback to the 60s, but I think, you know, conifers are going to be back in fashion.
Do you know what? I absolutely agree with you there. And in some of my earlier videos, there might have been a few comments made at the detriment of dwarf conifers and the like. But I do agree with you that I think things are coming back around again. And given a sort of modern edge, you know, you chuck a Yucca strata in with some conifers, and suddenly that's interesting, isn't it? It's modern art.
If you look at the form, I mean, you know, these are all sort of the dwarf types, so they're not going to get, you know, they're going to get to be a couple of metres tall.
Oh yeah.
So something like that one, you know, the other ones, as I say, you know, they're going to be keeping a decent form and a decent shape, and eventually when the heathers fill out in between, it'll stop us having to weed.
Beautiful maple there, which is just starting to turn,
starting to colour, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't that look amazing? It's at that time of year when, I know a lot of people watching this will be tropical style gardeners, but you start to appreciate plants like the maple, because there isn't anything better, is there? A beautiful autumn day.
No, for the leaf shape colour and things, and then, as I say, for the colours you get in autumn as well.
Fantastic. Well, obviously there's areas which we'll leave people to explore when they visit on an open day. There's a beautiful dry Mediterranean herb garden over there. There's another fruit border alongside the back there. But I think for this video, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for showing me around, Steve. I've got to say, I appreciate seeing the hard work that, you know, from yourself, a lot of your volunteers. And if people do live in the whole Cottingham area and want to get involved, I'll put the link to your website below. You welcome volunteers, don't you, of any age?
Yeah. I mean, we've got all sorts of abilities, because there's always a job, whether it's just clearing up or weeding, or, you know, want to be more sophisticated with plant propagation, whatever. We try and accommodate everybody to what they want to do and to develop them.
So if you're watching this, you live in the Hull area, maybe you've got a small garden, you've recently got into gardening, and you want somewhere to really experiment, to join in, to have a lasting role in something certainly bigger than your own garden, this is an absolutely great place to get involved with. And there's so much potential here, isn't there? You've done an amazing amount of work, but I can see, you know, for real exotic plants, there's some real promise here, isn't there? It's going to be fantastic to see more of the areas mature. So thank you very much for showing me around. And in the next video, we'll have a look around the greenhouses, glass houses, and show you some real exotic surprises. Thanks for watching. See you later.